Hi, this is Sam from Sam's Dream Themes. Thank you so much for purchasing this Photoshop collection, the Joya collection. It's a set that I use every day for my own editing, and I'm excited to show you how to use it as well. So if you're new to Actions, the first thing you're going to want to do is go to Window Actions and load them up. So with the stripy box in the right-hand corner, you'll just click it and hit Load Actions. And then wherever you have stored your actions, it could be in downloads. Mine is on the desktop right here. You'll double click it and then the set will be open for you. To open it, you just use this triangle right here, and each of these represents a series of actions, and I will go through them. The first set is the skin retouching. So I prefer the skin with texture because it still allows, with high frequency separation, to show some of those pores but smooth it at the same time, which is really cool. So you'll just click on the sentence, the action right here, and then the triangle at the bottom. And it's going to show you a few things right here. So clone and heal right here. We're going to use the healing brush, and I'll zoom in. And if there are any things that need to be fixed with the spot healing tool, I'm going to do it right here. And that might be stray hairs, it might be blemishes. Whatever it is, it's just going to take place right here. And I like to be nice and close for this. And trying not to use a brush that is too big, but just the right size for whatever it is I'm moving or deleting. You can see she has beautiful skin, so that makes it a bit easier, but she does have these flyaways that I want to kind of reduce a little bit. Okay. And I'll leave the rest of those, you get the idea. The next part is don't touch, soften here. So you're going to use a white brush at 100% flow, but we'll pop it down to 50% opacity, and just making sure that it is a soft brush. And I'm going to go through and just on the major parts of the skin, I'm going to soften it. And it's easier to see in a second when I turn this action on and off where it has softened and how it still kept the texture. I don't want to use this brush on the mouth or too close to like any of the folds or the sides of things like the nose. I want those parts to stay sharp. So you can see that texture in her forehead, but if I turn this on and off, you can see that it has softened up areas. If you want to, you can go higher than 50%. 50 is kind of where I like things because I do like my edits to be on the more natural side unless I'm doing a really painterly edit. And so here again, you can see that it has softened everything, but it has maintained that texture where it is supposed to be, which is great. And I will take that and flatten it. I should note that some people have said that they can't get this to work on their photo That's probably because their photo was in layers, like they had one layer over another, or without putting them in a group, or they were working on a PNG, and I haven't always found that they work on a PNG image with a transparent background. You do need a JPEG to do that part on. The next part of our actions, here we go. It's Photoshop. I upgraded it to 2020, and it's definitely given me a little bit of grief. You can also do super smooth skin, and that will reduce the texture as well. And you can also run that at 50% opacity, just the same way that you did the other one. The Sugar Glow skin tones are my favorite part of what I've created because they are for every ethnicity. I found that when I had purchased actions in the past, that they were really for white people, and that frustrated me because a lot of my customers are not white, and so I made my own. These start from dark at the top and they go to lightest at the bottom with Warm Glow and Alabaster. And then there is a cool down brush and a blush brush. For this girl, I think probably Sand and Nutmeg are going to be the colors that I want to use. Again, soft white brush, 50% opacity. And I'm going to go in, and this will color correct for you. And it will make the skin sort of an ideal tone without changing their skin completely and making them another race. For some areas, I'll go over it with a bit of a reduction, like that 21% right there. Okay. For the darker areas where I want a little bit more color, I could go on with Nutmeg. I find that a little bit strong. The sand really seems to be a good color for her. And for every ethnicity, I do like to go with Warm Glow. And so I'm painting this on the brightest areas of the photo. And this is what takes your photo and changes it from kind of one-dimensional or flat to more of a glowy 3D professional photo. And I especially like to do this on the cheeks. And again, anywhere where there's a highlight, and we will do some dodging and burning later to give even more dimension to the picture. And if you want to check how you think things have gone, you can always turn this on and off. And you can see we've gone that little bit brighter and that little bit glowier. And I can pop on some blush as well. And I'm happy with that, so I'm going to flatten that up. This is being very silly today. Eye palette, we're gonna run this, so press play. And I'll open it here. So we can brighten by going up close. And I will actually start at 100% with this. Now, she has dark eyes. I don't find it works quite as well with dark eyes, but it will whiten things up a little bit. And here is a sharpen that you can pop on top of that. And I'll go back and see if I think it's too much. If I think it's too much, I can change the opacity right here. And maybe I'll just bring down that sharpen just a little bit for the sharpen up. And flatten that down. Pearly white teeth, I'll run next. So here is whiten and brighten. And that looks pretty good. The next thing we can do is, if you want to do some color correction. So for example, say I thought that her face was a little bit too much on the yellow side, which I don't. I could click yellow reduction right here and play. And with a white brush, I would probably start around 30%. I can go over and reduce that yellow. and turning this on and off, you can see what it does. And of course, you could put it up to 100, which is going to be very scary. It makes her very cool looking, but these are quick ways in order to change the color saturation of your picture. So I reduced that a little bit, flatten that down. Blue reduction I use a lot for like winters if the snow is too blue, or whites if an outfit has a lot of blue in it, I'll use blue reduction. Red I love using for areas where somebody's face has like, you know, like red around the nostrils. Here, I'm going to run this just to show you. So again, I would keep it around 30%. And if, you know, around nostrils, around eyes, I'll usually do a bit of red reduction. I can actually do some red reduction around her chin here because it is being reflected. There is red being reflected from the shirt right here. And so that's kind of nice to fix. Sometimes around the hairline, there will be a little bit of red, but of course I do want to leave the red over by the cheeks. And you do have to be careful about this because if you're going at 100% opacity, you can turn somebody kind of gray or green. So you do have to be a little bit judicious in how you use that red. And always, I say start low and slowly layer up, as opposed to going at 100% because you'll probably be disappointed by the results. Flatten that up. There is a green reduction, a soft overall color reduction, and you can play with this and change the opacity if you would like. All of these kind of start strong, and then I do suggest changing opacity for things. And there is soft color boost as well. And again, you can always change the opacity of that if you want, but that's not something I usually use myself. These are the bokeh effects. These put bokeh over the entire picture, and then you're going to erase them. My favorite is usually Beautiful Basic Bokeh. So I'm going to press play for that. And this one does take a minute to run because it is a kind of complicated action. And anytime you're running a blur, it's probably going to take you a minute. So you can see this has gone over the entire picture, and that's okay. I'm going to switch to a black soft brush at 100% opacity, and I'm going to go over the girl. And if you hit the backslash button on your keyboard, it's going to show this red, and this will show you where you've already been with it, which is highly helpful. So I'm leaving the bokeh in the background, but I'm making sure that I get the hair and the girl and that I've got all of it. I'll take that off. And now you can see what it has done for the background. Not a lot because this is already a pretty bokeh background. And you can see that you can switch the opacity up a little bit more if you would like. And this is kind of my secret to getting that creaminess that is in my photos. And I did include some here that that give a little bit of color as well. So if I run the bokeh with the blush, this is going to add a little bit of pink to the bokeh. And I'll usually use the color that corresponds the most with the background that I already have. But blush will kind of neutralize out the green. And you can see here what that has done. And again, I could just use a black brush and brush it off of her. Now, yeah, I wouldn't say the blush is the greatest maybe for this particular picture, but you'll be able to see what it has done as well. And that bokeh is a little bit stronger as well. The next one that we'll go to is the one-click workflows. These are basically actions that will change the look of your picture, some quite significantly, others not so much. And you can kind of play with these a bit, but the point with these is that they're going to make a bit of a dramatic difference once you click them. And then I would go down and either change the opacity. So if you wanted it brightened, I would not brighten it this much. Maybe I would brighten it this much. And then making sure I'm clicked on this white square right here, I can use some black. I can bring my opacity down. Black is going to erase some parts out. And where her face is a little bit blown out, I can just go and reduce the action only on her face and leave it bright on the rest. So there is no such thing, I would personally say, as an action that's going to be, completely perfect every time you click it, because every photo is different. But by customizing it and playing around with it a little bit, you're going to get the perfect result. Time Machine is one that I love for kind of more vintage looks. Spring Powder is going to really brighten things up overall. Vintage Summer I use a lot, and Creme Brulee I use a lot. Creme Brulee I use again for a more vintage look. And again, you can customize it by changing the opacity, and if you want to brush it off of some areas, you can. Another one that I love using is Moon Dance. I use it all the time for night looks. So if I run it, it's going to give a blue hue to everything. And then it does say brush it off at 30% opacity to bring some color back. So this does flatten it a little bit, and I can just use this at 30% and bring back a little bit of that color if I want, or I can go to dodge and burn later. And I'm just bringing back some of the color. And this kind of makes it look like she's lit up against a darker background. And that might even be a little bit strong. I can just use it a little more evenly. And there's lots that I can do with this still as well. And I'll go over that in a few minutes in some of the other things we can do once we've got kind of the general look of the photo that we like. Night to Day I use a lot as well. So that is Night Jewel, or Day to Night I should say. So I'm going to press that. And this is another one of those more dramatic ones. So I would reduce the opacity in most cases. And I would use that brush at about 30%. And I would just brush it off of any areas that got too dark so that we can bring them back a little bit. And there we go. And this is really effective if you have a nighttime scene and you want to blend somebody in. This is going to definitely help you do that. And you can see a before and an after with that one. Something else that you will probably be interested in is the next set, which is painting colors. If you want to change the color of something, if you want to improve something, these are the ones to do it. So for example, if I had a sky and I wanted to make it bluer, I could run Sky Poem. Green pasture, if you've got greens that are kind of not so bright and beautiful, let's run this right here. And I can take this with a white brush because I'm adding on, and I can go over and improve the greens in something and make them more saturated or basically color correct with them. And then I can flatten that up. And you can see that there's lots of different colors here. Apple blossoms, I can run that one. This can help change the color of an outfit as well. This is kind of a pinkier red. So say I wanted to do that quick. Of course, I got her skin right there, which is not so good. If I wanted to, turn this back on. If I wanted to, I'm really sorry about my Photoshop today. You know, add different spots back there. And then I would probably reduce the opacity quite a bit until I was happy with that. You could even use that for blush if you wanted, although that is pretty harsh as well. And of course, we can always reduce the opacity there, or we can reduce the opacity of our brush in order to get what we want, and then flatten. I also like using this to add like other colors into my background. So I did go over with the green right there, but maybe I also want to add a little bit of gray in there, or buttercup I love as well, in order to give some creaminess. I don't use these often, to be honest, but I really like having them on hand when I would like to blend something. For example, somebody has a beach scene for me, I might paint on some creaminess. Somebody has like a dull fall photo, I will go in and paint a lot of my colors on, and that will bring on more of the magic. The vignettes are pretty obvious. I don't like heavy hardcore vignettes, but if you want, the deep green might be good for this. Creamy and airy is going to give you a creamy, airy look. And of course, I would suggest that you play with the opacity and get it where you want it. Deep green vignette, that might be good for this one. And spotlight vignette I use a lot. It's going to brighten the middle and darken the background. And I will leave that one alone and flatten it. There are some black and whites that you can try as well. This one has a touch of pink in it, which is how I kind of prefer to do mine. Okay, these at the bottom here are shortcuts if you were batch editing. So if you've got like 5 photos open, then you can go to File, Automate Batch, and you can flatten all of them at the same time. You can save them as JPEGs at the same time, close them, sharpen them all at the same time. And so that is something I like to do for my smaller ones, or my batch ones, sorry. And now let's finish up editing this picture so that we make it as beautiful as possible. I am going to put creme brulee on it and give it a little bit of that vintage feel I was talking about. I'll reduce that a little bit, and I'm going to reduce this off of her skin because I already did her skin and I was happy with the result that I got. So I'll flatten that up. And then I'm going to go and do some dodging and burning. So back up here to dodge and burn, run it. Open this right here, paint with white at 50% opacity, 5% flow. So, or sorry, 100% opacity, 5% flow. So then I'll go to the flow right here and bring it down to 5. I'll change this color to white. And I'm going to go in and start painting this on the brightest parts of all of the picture. especially areas that pop out a bit. And this is going to be what really gives your photo a professional edge, as opposed to any photo that you just take straight out of the camera and post. As well, this is really the way that editing works. Editing does not work with just one click and you're done. If you want a really professional result, it is going to take that bit of time. I would say that my average edit takes 15 minutes. And that's okay. You know, I'm not popping everything into Lightroom and just putting one filter on it. If I'm wanting to make something really special, I'm going to take the time to make it special. So this one with a black brush and the same instructions. Now I'm going to go over every part of the picture that has a little bit of shadow on it. I usually like to put a shadow beneath the bottom lip, around the sides of the face. And again, we're going for giving a photo more dimension under the chin. And again, anywhere where there are shadows, I'm popping in a little bit more. And there we go. I will flatten that up and I will show you now what it looks like to have that original compared to this one. You can see that we created a pretty natural edit that just makes it go from a nice photo to a stunning photo using these actions and a little bit of time. So I hope you enjoy customizing everything. I hope you enjoy using these actions. If you have any issues, please message me at samantha@samsdreamthemes.com and I will be really happy to help you out with anything that you're having problems with. Have an awesome day and enjoy.